Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seasonal Shift free quarterly class from me, Jessica Valentine Patterson, the CEO and founder of Wise Woman Co. I'm so thrilled to be sharing all of the favorite fun facts about winter. And this is really inspired from Ayurveda, from the sister science of yoga, which is all about the season of life. And so tune in just for a few minutes of winter inspiration, where you'll understand the winter energy, the winter opposites that you can cultivate through practice in your nutrition, in your movement, and in your intuition. And of course, leave with some really good intuitive goals with what's your intention or word for the season, and how do you want to learn and how do you want to grow. So let's dive right in. If you are watching visually, you can see my screen. And if you can't see my screen, that is perfectly fine too. Let me go ahead and share. Okay, here we go. So in this conversation today, we're going to go through why seasonal shift, why this approach to goals works, tap-in methodology. This is something that I created that I leverage with Wise Woman Co. and my other brand, Wisdom Within, to focus on how we can grow, how we can tap into the energy within ourselves whenever we feel depleted or distracted. And of course, doing a short gratitude practice, guided meditation, and goal setting. So let's dive in. About me, again, I'm Jessica Valentine Patterson. I've been working professionally for over a decade, and I've had more than one career in my career journey. I've been working in the corporate world for large technology organizations, whether they're Fortune 50, Fortune 500, or even some smaller boutique consulting firms. And my work in organizational strategy and change management, and as a certified coach, is to really help people bring the wisdom within them to the way that they work, the way that they lead, and the way that they love. And so this is, sponsored by Wise Woman Co., which is my side consulting practice. In full time, I work for a very large consulting firm in change management and training role. And I also teach yoga and meditation, and have done so for nearly a decade. I bring yoga and meditation and mindfulness to some of the largest technology conferences in the world, the RSA conference, the largest cybersecurity conference in the world, as well as Houston Security Conference, Women in Tech Texas, and the Executive Women's Forum. When I'm not doing all of that, all that I love, I am either practicing yoga, being in nature with my dog and my significant other, or learning how to make homemade pasta in my kitchen, and also being at my garden. So I love to cook. It is what I do to relieve stress, and also what I do to nourish myself and my spirit. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. Let's see. It's always important to analyze, what you want to learn. And so if we're in a live workshop, we really dive in and talk it out here, but just ask yourself, take a deep breath. What do you want to learn? What are you really being called for and craving in this winter season? The tap-in framework is a proprietary framework that I created because we live in such an external world. We serve so many needs of others through our jobs or our families or external expectation. And so this is my 5 best practices to cultivate wisdom within you. And tap-in stands for time, how to leverage time to find peace of mind within yourself and in your spirit. Ayurveda, seasonal living, that's the main focus of our conversation today. Pausing, being intentional with taking breaks, doing your inner work, some self-study. In Sanskrit, that word is svadhyaya, which is one of my favorite words to say. And then, of course, now focusing on in the present, in this moment, what can you do now? What's the most natural next step? And how are you going to move forward in this moment? Let's start with a brief grounding meditation. wherever you are, just take a 360-degree scan, look around the room. If you're driving, of course, keep your eyes on the road and just fast forward through this, but just notice what you see, notice colors, notice where the door is, your exit is. And this is a somatic practice to help the mind really get settled in your physical space. Once you get settled in your space, sit tall with attention and bring your hands, if you can, to your belly. Let your belly be soft and full. And just take a deep breath in and out. Letting your belly expand, your low back expand. And letting yourself hug in. Do that again. Breathe in. And out. Thank you for taking time to ground yourself. Really only takes a minute, maybe two, to get present in your body where you are now in physical space. Whether you're watching this later or even later in winter. So why a seasonal shift? I found that in my journey with goal setting and leadership development, which is the reason I fell in love with yoga and decided to become a teacher, was that you can really focus by setting intentional, intuitive goals for a season. Because you may be at a different season in your life or your career. You may be dealing with different elements that have you feeling bogged down and depleted of your energy. And so the intention is to help narrow your focus with seasonal shift, to say, okay, in this season, in this experience of winter, how do you want to stop doubting, stop distracting, and stop delaying your growth in order to lean into and live from your wisdom within you? So about Ayurveda, few fun facts. So Ayurveda is all about bringing yourself the opposite. And if you don't know your dosha, quick dosha quiz, DOSHA. So a dosha is really your constitution, and we all have a little bit of each. The constitutions in Ayurveda are kapha, which is of earth and water in the body. That looks like being more full-bodied, sometimes feeling a little sluggish. And then we also have pitta, which is fire, which is heat, which is that burning sensation, your fiery personality, your pitta. And then we have vata. Vata is all about air and wind, and the human self, it can show up as someone who may be really anxious, maybe has a lot of thoughts or a lot of worries or concerns. So their vata is really present. So the theme of winter is actually heavy in kapha, earth and water, and with vata undertones, so air. So whenever we are in a season of heaviness, in a season of sluggishness, it's important to cultivate the opposite. If your kapha, your heaviness is feeling really just blah and stuck, you want to give yourself some pitta in terms of movement. So weight training, HIIT workouts, quick breath of fire in Kundalini yoga. It will bring you some balance, to bring you some heat when you feel sluggish. And the second thing is the other kind of movement. If you have a lot of vata, a lot of air, anxiety, maybe you're thinking really self-critical thoughts, is to give yourself some very gentle yoga, gentle walking, tai chi. That's really the movement that is inspired by winter. And then nutrition-wise, what kind of foods have you been craving? Are they warm? Probably, because with the colder weather outside or wet weather, we crave warm, we crave more, kapha-like foods. So making sure that you're cooking your vegetables, lightly sauteing them, that helps with digestion. You may not need as much food this winter, even if you want more of it. That's will also just support your kapha if you're already feeling a little, heavy and sluggish. And then eating root vegetables is, of course, important. Eating vibrantly, locally, if you can, whatever you have access to, and really enjoy. So you may want to give yourself, some balance. So if you're eating like too many heavy foods, for example, I just learned how to make homemade pasta, which is amazing and one of my goals. And eating homemade pasta every day is not what's best for my being, or really supports Ayurveda, which is all about giving yourself the opposite in order to find more wholeness. So more light grains, more cooked veggies, more things that make you feel good, as well as spices, spicy foods, building inner heat, soups. We all love soups. Add red pepper flakes on top. So there's so many little things that you can do to really increase your nutrition and your nourishment in winter. And of course, intuition. Winter is the energy of hibernation, of rejuvenation. So allow yourself to really focus on your own growth, your own heart, your own mind. How can you stabilize the mind, stabilize, your money as well, to bring in some ease and to intuitively step into what you're feeling called to? And that is the essence of winter. Most of this resource and mindset was developed by looking at the Banyan Botanicals website, as well as lots of study in yoga and Ayurveda, and just what's worked for me over the years. This is my, I believe, third year in a row to do the seasonal shift and to focus on the winter solstice. So many people do like 108 sun salutations if you're into the yoga scene, which is like 108 push-ups. But I have to tell you, 108 push-ups isn't going to make you feel more enlightened. And maybe you'll get a great workout in a day to celebrate the winter solstice, but you'll probably forget that you're in winter energy all the way up until March 19th, which I just think is such an interesting day. And I also think it's just why our approach to seasonal living has not been working. In the yoga world or in the wellness world, we do 108 sun salutations to welcome in winter, but then in reality, we don't have a game plan for like our intentions, our actions, or how we want to feel. So this is really the lane that I'm choosing to stay in, to actually serve people with, like, what is your intention? What do you want to learn? And how do you want to grow in this short season, in this sacred window called seasonal shift for winter? Let's see. What's next? Gratitude. Before we can start calling in what we want, we have to thank what we already have. And so 3 questions to explore. If you have a journal and pen, take it out, phone device, type it out. What do you appreciate about this past season? What do you appreciate about fall? What do you appreciate about this year, 2022? What do you appreciate? Because when we appreciate, we allow things to grow in value. And then what are you choosing to let go of? What do you want to get rid of? Wash your hands clean of, whether it's your energy, your negative self-talk, whether it's other lessons that you've been learning. What do you want to let go of? Now, once you focus on what do you appreciate about the past season, what do you choose to let go of? What do you want to cultivate more of this winter? And this is a beautiful space to just ask, what do I want to cultivate more of this winter? And allow yourself to sit in a meditation or to go on a walk and just ask and explore. So moving forward through the tap-in framework, T stands for time. Whenever we get these cravings of like, how do we feel in winter? It all comes into how do we manage our time? How do we focus on our energy? And how do we focus on the results that we want to create and cultivate? So I have a process for reflection and direction on your week over week basis. I love counting weeks of the year. If you don't already subscribe to the newsletter, make sure you do that. It's amazing. I give you practices every week and it's really great. There's a book called 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkam. And it basically tells you this. Say if you work 40 hours a week, maybe you work 50. If you're, thinking about work, that also counts as working, in my opinion. And then say you sleep 7 hours a night. And that's 49 hours. It's round up to 50. So that's 100 hours a your week. Maybe you spend 20 hours of the week eating or exercising. So you have an extra 48 hours. What are you doing with it? What if you had a time budget? How would you show up differently? If you had a whole extra 2 days, what would you learn? What would you develop? What would you grow? So in the Tappan framework, T stands for time. That's all. That's what it's all about in a nutshell. I've also included some practices per days of the week, what you can do on, Monday through Friday, especially. I think Saturday, Sunday, we do focus on what brings us joy and light. And during the work week, we really forget how we can be more mindful. So according to Ayurveda, this is the energy of each day based on the planet and maybe some practices to do. I'm going to parlay that. That's a secondary podcast episode. So if you're watching it, same thing with the Ayurvedic clock. There's a way to manage your day based on the season of the day, on the circular nature, the circadian rhythm of light. So I'm such a nerd. Let's get into pausing. Ways you can slow down. 7 Types of Rest by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. More on that. Taking pauses, taking breaks. This winter, how do you want to take breaks for yourself? For me, I really want to dive into reading. Really want to dive into reading in my cute little cozy meditation corner. Really want to study. Really want to plan. Really want to get nerdy. So how can I just bottle all this energy up and channel it in a way that feels really good versus really depleting? How to check in with yourself physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Physically, in this moment, I feel this way. Mind space, my frequency is a certain way. Emotionally, in my heart, how am I feeling? Spiritually, in my essence, in my purpose, am I growing? Am I cultivating the energy that I want to cultivate? And then finally, what can we do now with our vision and vibe this winter? So you're going to create a word for winter, and winter in the Northern Hemisphere is from now, December 21st through March 19th. So that's winter lasts until then. So don't get in spring energy, even if it gets warmer where you live by March, because you're still in the season of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So I love creating a word, and sometimes we can think of the word, but we may not feel it. So I'll share with you my process of how I found my word for winter. What you're going to leave with is, what's the one thing you want to learn in this season, in the next 90 days? What's the one thing that you want to do? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do? This takes the word, the vibration, and puts it in action. So this morning I was thinking about, okay, how do I want to feel in winter? And I was journaling. I'm going to whip out my fun journal right now, because I said how I currently felt, and then I gave myself the opposite. So how I've been feeling this past season is depleted, distracted, and full of doubt. That is real. As someone who guides and teaches about wisdom within you, my energy and focus have really felt depleted in the fall season. And so when I think about the opposite of depleted, distracted, and doubtful, I can focus on the opposite of being depleted is abundant. The opposite of being distracted is focused. The opposite of being in doubt is feeling free. And so as I played with the words of abundant, focused, and free, I then thought about, well, what's an Italian word for that? I come from an Italian lineage. My word for 22 was becoming, diventare in Italian. So I love and have historically loved Italian traditions, cooking. I'm very close with my grandmother. And it's just very much a part of my essence, sort of familial essence that I have in life. And so I started looking up, I went to Google, of course, and I was like, okay, what is the Italian word for feeling free? And it was Il Sensario, and I'm going to butcher that, but clearly I'm going to work on my Italian. And the word definition came up about sensation. And so feeling free, it was the word sensation that came up. And so whenever I saw the word, felt the word in my body, it just felt like in winter, I really want to focus on leaning into sensation. And so whenever you have your word, you'll then start to pull in, well, like, what does that mean to you? So to me, that's really focusing on the sensations in my body, giving myself time and space to feel the sensations in my body, focusing on my intuition, and really focusing on work and whatever else I feel. The one thing that I want to learn or do with the word sensation is I would want to study Italian 20 minutes a day. I'm going to do that during lunch. And I want to study my profession on change management and coaching for 1 hour twice per week. And then the one thing that I want to do is this season of winter, I am budgeting. I am pulling back the reins called, from depletion into abundant and focused. And I really want to tend to my garden that I have. I want to tend to, things behind the scenes in my business. I want to focus on my self-care, and I want to increase my investments in myself and in my savings. That is what I'm going to do this winter. So it's a very concrete plan. Now, what's interesting is whenever we set goals or set intuitive goals, resistance can get in the way. And in Ayurveda, which is all about cultivating the opposite, right? Of the heaviness, of the sluggish of winter, of giving yourself some fire, being gentle. You may not want to give yourself fire, and you may not want to be gentle with yourself. But I'm here to tell you that if you are called and inspired to create sustainable change in your life, then it's going to come from having an intention or a word, and then getting clear on like, well, what's the action that you can take? And then how can you continue to forgive yourself even if you don't take action? So for example, I could easily leave this conversation, say I'm going to study Italian, say I'm going to study more, but not do the thing. And I can get really clear on like, what's the feminine feeling? Like, I just want sometimes to be like left alone and to get nerdy and just to like learn for the sake of learning, to be unbothered by anyone or thing else. I'm laughing because I'm just telling on myself, and it's so true. But I just want to I just want to learn, and sometimes I want to be left alone. And when I live with someone else, and whenever I have 3 different income streams, which I am grateful for, I need more time to myself, and I need more time for the things that I enjoy. And that's really what I want to learn, is to enjoy being with myself and enjoy being still and to enjoy going slow. So now what? For me, learning Italian, it's downloading Duolingo. This is why working with a coach is helpful. It's actually blocking out time in my calendar to study. And when do you start? Well, guess what? My brothers and sisters, we start today. It's the first day of winter. So whatever the habit thing is, so today I'm going to study Italian for 20 minutes. And I'm also going to study training and coaching. And I'm going to develop my budget. Welcome to winter. Welcome to springing into action. Welcome to the hibernation essence. But this is how we create seasonal shift, is slow, subtle changes over time. In coaching and in life, that's what creates habit change. That's what creates behavioral change. It is how we win. It is how we create our own lives to be successful in our own way. And I just want to honor, recently, I've in my personal world have had a lot of grief experience from a sudden passing of a dear friend who passed tragically in a car accident. And also by having family members really experience some hard times, their parents going through a divorce, generational trauma, you name it, it's been heavy. And so I want to just honor where you've been. And I want to honor that the season of struggle, your own season of suffering, silently can come to an end. And so there's no shame in where you've been. There's no shame in what you've experienced. There is power in being purposeful and of listening to the wisdom within you. And so as you begin to cultivate how you want to feel and how you want to move forward, focus on naming and claiming how you want to feel with your intention and your word. Focus on the practices that support your well-being, and then focus on the actions, the doing, the getting out of your own mind, supporting and serving others and yourself. And remember to tap in. Thank you for being with me. Much love.